The drone hovered just above my barn, its sleek black frame almost ghost-like against the gray sky. I stood frozen, fists clenched, eyes locked on the blinking red light and tiny camera lens fixed downward like an electronic predator scouting for my secrets. Boone's low growl rumbled from my feet, fur bristling. I knew this wasn't a mistake, it was a message. They'd sent it, and now I was their target. I instinctively reached for my signal jammer, the old gear I'd kept for emergencies, flipping it on with a quiet hum that cut the drone's buzz mid-air. It spiraled down, crashing softly onto the grass behind the barn. No explosions. Just silence. That was the moment I realized they weren't playing around anymore. The first drone had come earlier, circling my barn twice before vanishing into the trees. I'd seen it on my security cameras, a sleek shadow patrolling my land like a predator. Now this second one was brazen, flying lower, boldly crossing over my roof, pausing mid-air above my bedroom window. I clenched my fists tighter. This was no coincidence. It was a deliberate, calculated move. They wanted to see what I'd do, test how far I'd go. I didn't wait. I grabbed my old signal jammer from the garage, flipping it on. The drone jerked mid-air, wobbling like a puppet with its strings cut, then spiraled down into the grass with a soft thud. No fire, no chaos, just a quiet victory. But I knew it was just the beginning. Night fell, and I reviewed my outdoor footage. The first drone had circled twice more after sunset, its shadow dancing in the dark. I downloaded the videos, made copies, and labeled them carefully. This wasn't paranoia. It was evidence. Evidence I'd need if they ever tried to push further. By morning, I was already outside setting up defenses. I installed new infrared motion detectors, upgraded my fence with laser tripwires along the main trail, and wired the perimeter lights to respond to aerial movement. If they thought I'd back down, they were dead wrong. I'd fought in wars. This was just a different kind of combat, and I was ready. Boone sat on the porch, eyes fixed on the horizon, ears alert. I heard it again, those faint mechanical wings flapping just beyond the trees. They weren't done. Neither was I. I knew the game they played. Push hard enough, and even the strongest landowner would break. But I wasn't about to let that happen. Before dawn, I was out with a post driver, hammered warning signs into the ground. Private property, no trespassing, armed owner. I bolted them every 100 feet, the metal plates cold against my palms. I added a laminated sign to the gate, "We don't do HOA here." Bold letters that screamed defiance. Boone wagged his tail like he knew we'd won this round. By late morning, I rewired the security system, adding night vision cameras and laser sensors. My land looked like a military zone. Fences, signs, cameras, everything designed to keep them out. The message was clear. Stay away, or face the consequences. While I worked, I kept my phone close. A call to the sheriff's office confirmed what I already knew. Drones flying under 400 feet over private property were a gray area, legally. Unless they damaged something or showed intent to harass, it was civil matter territory. I'd learned that lesson the hard way in the military. Rules of engagement, rules of the land. This was no different. That night, Boone sat alert, ears perked, staring into the dark. I heard it again. Those faint flaps, like a shadow passing through the trees. They weren't giving up. Neither was I. I set up more cameras, upgraded my defenses, prepared for whatever was coming next. I wasn't just defending my land, I was fighting for my right to be left alone. The next morning, before the sun even rose, I drove into town for supplies. When I returned, I found a thick envelope on the tailgate of my truck, an official HOA notice with Saddle Ridge Estates logo stamped across the front. I opened it carefully. Inside was a letter, preliminary violation for industrial equipment, storage, unauthorized outbuilding, and visual harmony breach. All nonsense, of course, but what caught my eye was a doctored map attached, showing my land somehow expanded into their HOA boundary, with a red crayon line that cut straight across wildlife zones and my pasture as if it belonged to them. I stared at it in disbelief. This was no mistake. It was a deliberate, illegal claim. My land wasn't inside their boundaries, and I had the legal documents to prove it. I snapped screenshots, printed the map, and highlighted every detail in neon yellow. I knew this was a lie, and I knew I had to act fast. I called my lawyer, Charlotte, and sent her everything. Her reply was swift. "That's not a map. That's a lawsuit in the making." I didn't need her to tell me. I already knew. They were trying to take my land by deception. That afternoon, Boone barked at the trees again. I looked up, and there it was. Another drone, lower this time, brazenly cruising above my house. I grabbed my signal jammer, flipping it on again. The drone shuddered, lost control, and crashed into the grass. I watched in silence, heart pounding. They weren't going to give up. Not yet. That night, I sat outside, watching the land I fought to protect. The stars shone bright, unfiltered, free. I'd fought hard, fought everything I believed in. This wasn't just a land dispute. It was a stand for freedom. And I'd make sure they understood. Nobody pushes me off my land. The war was far from over. But I was standing my ground. And I had the proof, the resolve, and Boone, my loyal protector, to back me up. Whatever came next, I was ready. Because this wasn't just about land anymore, it was about the right to be left alone. And I wasn't going to let anyone take that from me. The drone shattered into the grass with a soft thud, its sleek black frame no longer hovering, just lying there like a discarded toy. I stared at it, heart pounding, hands trembling slightly, from the adrenaline. Boone's fur bristled, ears pinned back, eyes fixed on the wreckage. I knew that was just the beginning. They'd sent it and I'd cut it down, but I also knew they'd be back, probably with something better, faster, more relentless. I didn't waste a second. I grabbed my signal jammer again, flipping it on with a steady hand. The hum of electronics cut through the night air, a small, defiant act of resistance. The second drone, the brazen one that had hovered over my house, jerked midair, its blinking red light flickering erratically before spiraling down into the grass behind the barn. With a dull thud, silence followed. No explosions, no missiles, just quiet. But I knew they weren't finished. I crouched low, heart hammering in my chest, eyes scanning the horizon. That drone, the one above my house, had paused just before it was shot down, rotating slightly as if it had been ordered to gather some last bit of intel. Whatever they wanted, whether it was my land, my routines, or my movements, they'd gotten it now. And I had the evidence to prove it. I pulled out my phone and quickly reviewed the footage on my outdoor cameras. The first drone had circled, twice more after sunset, lingering like a predator waiting for me to slip up. I downloaded the videos, naming them carefully, and made copies in case I needed to show anyone. This wasn't paranoia. It was proof. Evidence that someone was watching me, trying to intimidate me, push me off my land. Night fell harder, but I stayed vigilant. I'd already wired my perimeter with new infrared motion detectors, laser tripwires along the trail, and upgraded the security cameras to night vision. If they thought I'd give up, they'd be sorely mistaken. I'd fought in wars. This was just a different battlefield, one where silence and patience were my weapons. Boone, ears alert, sat beside me on the porch, staring into the darkness. I heard it again, the faint, almost imperceptible flap of wings, like a shadow passing through the trees. They weren't done. Neither was I. I moved to set up more defenses, more cameras, more signs. The old no trespassing signs, faded but still clear, now looked like a fortress. I hammered new warning signs into the ground: private property, armed owner, no trespassing. I even laminated a bold new sign: "We don't do HOA here." I bolted it right beside the American flag at the gate, a clear message of defiance. Boone wagged his tail as if to say, "We're ready." By early dawn, I'd wired the fence with new alarms, installed laser sensors, and set up motion-activated floodlights. My land was no longer just a quiet ranch, it was a fortress, a battleground. I knew they'd try again, so I prepared for it. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a new notification. I looked down, an official HOA letter. I tore it open. Inside, a list of supposed violations: improper storage, unauthorized outbuilding, visual harmony breach, and all nonsense. Then I saw the attached map. It looked like a child had drawn it, crayon red lines, scribbled boundaries that cut across wildlife zones and my pasture as if my land was part of their imaginary kingdom. The map was a lie. I knew that. I had my legal documents confirming my property's boundaries, clear outside their jurisdiction. I snapped screenshots, printed the fake map, highlighted every false line with neon yellow. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a scam, a blatant attempt to steal my land through deception. I immediately called my lawyer, Charlotte, and sent her everything. Her reply came fast. "That's not a map. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen." I didn't sleep. Instead, I reviewed the evidence, plotted my next move. I had to act fast before they cemented this false claim. I decided to go on the offensive. I posted everything online: photos, videos, the doctored map, and explained how I'd caught them red-handed trying to annex my property. The response was swift. Within hours, my story went viral. News outlets picked it up. Social media lit up with support and outrage. People who'd been through similar battles started reaching out, sharing their stories, but I knew the worst was yet to come. That night, just as I was about to head inside, I saw it again. Another drone, lower this time, buzzing just above my roof. I grabbed my jammer, flipping it on once more. The drone jerked uncontrollably, spinning out of control before crashing into the grass. I watched in silence, heart racing. They weren't giving up. Not now. The following morning, I woke up to another surprise: a thick envelope on my truck's tailgate. I opened it carefully. It was an official violation notice from the HOA. More fabricated claims, more lies. The attached map was even more distorted, showing my land expanded into their imaginary boundary. Crayon lines crossing natural wildlife corridors and pasture land like a drunken artist's mistake. I looked at it in disbelief. They were trying to erase the truth. I called Charlotte again. She said, "This is escalation. They're desperate. We need to hit back harder." We drafted a cease and desist letter, citing Colorado law, FAA regulations, and attaching all the evidence: drones, fake maps, emails, everything. I sent it directly to the HOA board and copied the sheriff's office, the county planning department, anyone who could stop this illegal game. They didn't respond immediately, but I knew I'd rattled them. I kept watch. The drones didn't come back that day, but I knew they'd be lurking. Every shadow, every gust of wind felt like a threat. Then came the real shocker. An anonymous note slipped through my gate. It read, "You're making this harder than it has to be. Cooperate now and things won't escalate." I crumpled it and threw it into the fire. Let them try. I was done playing nice. Over the next days, I watched the fallout. The HOA's website went offline. Residents started questioning the board's actions. Some even called for dissolving the HOA altogether. The false boundary map was exposed. Public records confirmed my property was outside their claims. The county launched an investigation into their illegal filings. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I went public. I shared my story on social media, posted videos of the drones, the fake maps, the harassment. I told everyone I was fighting to keep my land free from the greed and deception of a corrupt HOA. The response was overwhelming. Support flooded in from all over. Landowners in neighboring counties shared their horror stories about shady HOA tactics. Within days, media outlets caught wind. A local reporter came out to interview me, filming by the ridge, capturing the wild, rugged beauty of my land. Her questions were simple. How does it feel to win? I looked into the camera and said, "It feels like I kept the perimeter. That's all I ever wanted." The fight was far from over, but I'd already won a crucial victory, exposing their lies, rallying support, and standing my ground. I knew they'd try again, but I was ready. I had the evidence, the support, and the resolve to keep fighting. And I'd do it all again if I had to, because this wasn't just about land. It was about freedom, my land, my rules, and nobody was going to take that away. Absolutely. Here's a full, powerful, long story that dives straight into the action, filled with suspense, twists, and a mind-blowing ending. Sit back and enjoy this unforgettable tale. The court's gavel slammed down with relentless finality. A hush fell over the room. Alexis Green's smug smile faded instantly, replaced by a flicker of panic. The judge's voice echoed cold and firm. Injunction granted. All unauthorized surveillance, trespassing, and fraudulent filings must cease immediately. The silence was deafening. I felt the weight of the moment settle deep in my chest. I had won the battle, but I knew the war was far from over. As I stepped out of the courthouse, the adrenaline still coursing through me, I kept my eyes sharp. I'd spent months fighting her, exposing her lies, uncovering her schemes, everything she'd done to try and steal my land. But I knew Alexis wasn't one to give up easily. Her empire of deception was built on secrets, lies, and dirty money. And now she was cornered, or so I thought. That night, as darkness blanketed my land, I sat on the porch, my eyes scanning the shadows beyond the fence. My loyal dog, Boone, was tense beside me, ears alert. Suddenly, I heard it, the faint, almost imperceptible hum of a drone slicing through the silence. My heart stopped. I knew it was coming. They wouldn't give up so easily. I looked at Boone. His fur bristled. We were on high alert. Then I saw it, a tiny flicker of light behind the barn. A small device, hidden behind some rocks, glowing faintly red and blue. My stomach clenched. It was another surveillance camera, another covert eyes watching, recording, waiting. They were still there, still spying, still trying. I moved swiftly, my mind racing. I quickly yanked out a portable signal jammer, flipping it on. The drone jerked uncontrollably, spinning out of control before crashing into the grass with a muffled thud. I watched it in silence, heart pounding. They were relentless. This was their new tactic: intimidate, surveil, control. But I wouldn't let them. I crouched low and grabbed the crashed drone, examining it. Inside, I found some parts, chips, wires, clearly more sophisticated than before. They'd upgraded. They were learning. I knew they would try again, and I had to be ready. The next day, amidst the chaos, I found a new note at my gate, typed, on a computer, cold and calculated. It read, "You've made this harder than it needs to be. Cooperate now, or face the consequences." I scoffed. Threats? I'd faced worse in war zones. This was just their desperation showing. I immediately called Charlotte, my lawyer. I shared everything. The new surveillance device, the threats, the hacking attempts. She was quiet for a long moment, then said, "They're escalating. We need to stay calm but prepare for the worst. This isn't just about land anymore, it's about power, control, and greed." I nodded, knowing she was right. I doubled down, on my defenses. More cameras, motion sensors, fake emergency signals. I even rigged an old siren I had in storage, just in case they tried to stage a bigger attack. I was ready. That night, I stayed awake, eyes peeled. Suddenly, I saw it, the faint glow of a drone hovering directly above my house. I grabbed my jammer, flipping it on. The drone jerked violently, spiraling down into the grass. I watched it crash, heart pounding. They wouldn't give up, but neither would I. Then around midnight, I saw movement, something different. A shadow, in the woods beyond the fence. Not a drone, a person, moving carefully, trying to hide behind the trees. I crept outside silently, clutching a flashlight, but kept it off. I didn't want to give away my position. As I moved closer, I saw the figure fiddling with a small device, crouched at the edge of my property. I froze, heart racing. Before I could shout or confront, the figure turned and sprinted into the forest, disappearing into the darkness. I chased after, Boone barking fiercely. I didn't catch them, but I found what they'd left behind, a tiny encrypted hacking device. I pocketed it quickly, then headed back, my mind racing. I knew this wasn't just about the land. It was bigger, something deeply rooted in corruption and greed. They'd been orchestrating a covert operation, planting devices, manipulating maps, and even corrupting local officials to help them steal everything I owned. Over the next few days, I pored over the device with Charlotte's help. We decrypted the data and uncovered a web of lies, illegal land deals, secret agreements with corrupt officials, and a network of surveillance points feeding into a larger scheme. It was a conspiracy that reached far beyond me. Then came the ultimate breakthrough. I prepared a comprehensive report, evidence of their illegal activities, the fake surveillance maps, the hacked footage, and took it directly to the county authorities. I handed over everything, confident this would be the end of their game. But just as I thought I had won, everything changed in an instant. That evening, I received a call from an anonymous source. A voice muffled but urgent. "Stop digging, leave it alone, or things will get ugly." I hung up, feeling the cold shiver of danger. I knew they were watching, listening, waiting. Within hours, my phone buzzed with news. Federal investigators had launched an inquiry into Saddle Ridge Estates and Alexis Green's operations. Their empire of lies was crumbling. Court orders froze her assets, and her plans to seize my land were officially over. The conspiracy was exposed, and I had won. Or so I thought. But the real story was just beginning. That night, as I sat on my porch watching the stars, I saw something I'd never seen before. A figure approaching silently through the woods. Not a drone, not a trespasser. Someone cloaked in darkness, carrying a small box. They placed it near the fence, then quickly vanished into the shadows. Curious, I waited. The next morning, I found the box. Inside was a note, typed, cold. "You're stronger than they thought, but this isn't over. They'll come back. Be ready." I opened the box carefully. Inside, I found a small, high-tech device, one that looked like a surveillance bug on steroids, capable of hacking into any system. Anywhere. My blood ran cold. They hadn't just been spying, they'd been preparing. And I realized this wasn't just about land, it was about control, about total domination over everything I owned, everything I was. They'd tried to buy me out, intimidate me, even kill my peace. But I had fought back with everything I had, and now, I was the only one left standing. I knew this war was far from over. But I also knew I had the truth, the evidence, and the unbreakable will to fight. I had exposed their lies, shattered their plans, and broken their grip on my land, and I would do it again, no matter the cost. Because in the end, the true victory wasn't just about land. It was about standing for what's right, no matter how dark the night. And I promised myself that I'd never let anyone take that away from me. Never again. The end.